Thank you. First matter is warrant signature update. Our representative, Mr. Donnelly's reviewed some warrants and approved them and signed them. So if there's no questions on them, accept the motion to accept and file.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. We have a set of meetings for approval, review from the board of August 12th, 2025 meeting.
I'll move for approval of the minutes, Mr. Chair.
As submitted, okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lane, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. Tonight we have a few appointments, no extra public hearings. Our first one's right before us, and that's our fine representatives from the Norwood Municipal Light and Norwood Broadband. With that, Mr. Morrissey, you take over.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Tony. I'm Dan Morrissey, Chief Operating Officer of the Light Department. To my right is Jason Haber, Assistant Superintendent of the Electric Division. And to my left is Rich O'Reilly, the Broadband Manager. We're here tonight just to provide a quarterly update to the board, answer any questions that you may have, and just to go through our report that we did submit, if that's all right.
Go right ahead.
Just to go through pretty quickly, there's several projects that have been going on. We're replacing the underground cable throughout town on our feeders. So it's we call it a paper insulated lead covered cable to EPR cable replacement project. That contract was awarded earlier in the year. The cable should start coming in the end of October. We expect that project to take probably a year to year and a half to complete. But once we get that done, all our underground cables will have been replaced from the originals that were put in 1970. So that should help us reduce some of the feeder outages, hopefully. We're in the process of putting together a bid to go install underground conduits along Pleasant Street from Pleasant Place to Morse Street. That bid is pretty much complete. We're looking to send that out probably in October, November timeframe so that we can start work in the spring. Over at our old facility at 206 Central Street, we replaced the electric service there. One of the big reasons we did that is because there's some old switchgear. It got to the point where we either replace the switchgear or decommission it and just take the feeders out of our other substation. It didn't seem cost effective to replace the switchgear, so this allows us to now decommission that switchgear. All the feeders going into that building, and it's like a mini substation. They've all been de-energized, so now we can start to take that apart. In October, we'll be starting we have a substation at the end of Springville Road on the Moderna property. In early October, we're going to start doing some repairs there. The conduits going into the building, for whatever reason, got damaged. So as they come into the building, they should be flush. They're actually down about an inch. The cables haven't been damaged, but it's something we need to take care of because over time that could become a problem. So we're working with Moderna on this. We'll have to do some switching, and that'll be going on in October. Another electric project that's going on is about a year ago, Verizon tested all the poles in town. We typically would do that over a 3-year period when we test the poles, mainly just because you're testing about 3,100 poles in our section. If 10% of those are no good, that's 300 poles. That's a lot to have to do in 1 year. If you do 1,000 poles, you're looking at maybe 100. So that's a more realistic number for us. It also spreads out the costs. Verizon paid to test all the poles, so they did everything. So we got a pretty big number there. There's 343 poles on the list. We've done about 109 of them. 103, I'm sorry. And that project's ongoing.
Sorry, 103 over the last year?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the poles that have to be replaced, these aren't ones that are falling over. The ones that were critical, we take care of right away.
Right.
The other thing is we replace all the poles. We're not putting braces and some of the other things that you see around town. There's a couple reasons we don't do the braces. One of the biggest reasons is it's not really fixing the problem, because one of the problems is a lot of those poles are so old. Over time, it was just electric and telephone when those poles were installed. Now you have telecommunications, you have this drive for electrification, which now means you have to run primary cable to, and have more transformers on the poles, so the height of the poles becomes an issue. Bracing them, putting braces on the bottom doesn't help, doesn't make the poles grow. And that's one of the problems, is the height, so
So when you see bracing around town, that's not you guys?
that's not us, that's Verizon.
Nice.
There's been a lot of projects that I know Jason's been instrumental in supervising that have gone down, especially Home Market Foods. He's basically dealt with them almost exclusively. And then the others that are FM Global, electric, from our standpoint, it's pretty much done. I know they still have a lot of work, but the electrical infrastructure is pretty much in place at this point. The Coakley is up and running. The field lights have been moved. So again, we're down there. And then Amazon, they just did a lot at their site with EVs. And I know Jason was there for
Yeah,
that.
they added about 196 car chargers, so I think their plan is to get an electric fleet of delivery vans, which is actually good for us, because they're gonna charge them overnight. So it's called an off-peak load. So for us, if you look at our load during the afternoon mostly, it is the highest. At night, it kind of tails off. So it's good to bring that bottom up to help average out the cost of power. So it'll be a good project for us in the end, when it's all done.
They actually have an off-peak hour?
So it's not actually called off.
I got stuff to deliver at 4 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, I got you. Yeah, no, so their intention is, from what we're being told, is to charge the vans between 11 PM and 9 AM. So that's a good thing.
I guess while you're on a roll, you can also update them about the landfill solar.
Oh, sure, I'll take the bullets. So the landfill solar is ongoing. I had a call today with the owner of the project team, a guy named Andrew Bernstein, expressing my disappointment at the progress so far. And he informed me that they've actually changed EPC contractors. They're going to get us an updated memo, but it turned out Milton Catt, who was originally going to do the engineering, procurement, and construction on the project, can no longer support the project. It sounds like they've lost some key employees because of health, from what I'm being told. So they signed on a company called Optimum EPC, who's ironically doing the landfill project in Walpole. So they're familiar with the area, they're good, and he assures me it'll be producing power by end of June. So it's the same schedule as what I told you guys. I think I told you guys end of March, but I'm more confident end of June the last time I sat in this seat. And now I think end of June is the target. Unfortunately, there's been, all equipment's on order, all the solar panels, the transformers, and the switch gear are all on order and on schedule. The problem is with the racking, the ballast racking that actually holds the solar panels on the landfill without damaging the cap. So I guess this company that they ordered the racking from has pushed back the delivery date time and time again. That's what he's telling me is the reason why this hasn't begun. So they're hoping to break ground in the fall, honestly more likely winter, if I were to guess, just based on the way things are going. But I believe for tax purposes, they're gonna do everything in their power to get this on by end of June. So, because they have some pretty high financial obligations that they're gonna lose, or financial interest that they're gonna lose out on it if this thing isn't all done. So it's not the best news. Unfortunately, it's out of our hands. The other thing is this company's also done work for other MLPs like us. They've done Concord, Chicopee, Sterling, and Reading in the last couple of years. So I'm confident they'll be able to get it done. Unfortunately, it's just happening now as opposed to months ago. So that's my update there.
Okay.
Some of the ongoing projects,
Just one question on
Sorry.
that, and this is just out of my curiosity. So solar is going to generate electricity there. How does it get transmitted? Does it go back into your substations, or is it transmitting
so-
directly into customers?
I can answer that pretty easily. There's a,
I knew you could.
there's a path down, there's a path down Winter, in between Winter and Rugby Road
Mhm.
that goes behind the landfill. And we got medium voltage, three-phase lines there. So eventually it'll make its way back to the substation,
Mhm.
but the point of interconnection is gonna be at that spot. And then it'll hit any load between that spot and the substation in between. But that being said, it's like if you take a bottle of water, pour it in a bucket, it all mixes up energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, that's my solar
Got it.
energy. You know?
It's all magic.
Squirrels.
Dan, Jason, do we have, and I know you're confident on this, but I'm kind of harping on it lately, is the contract, if they don't fulfill their contract by a certain time, do we have penalty clauses on
We
most
do.
of the electrical projects?
We do.
Perfect.
So we do have that backing us up. As Superintendent Shaughnessy likes to say, we're a partner in this project now. So we're kind of holding that as a sword.
All right.
Then I wave it around a lot. So, but at the end of the day, we want to see this get done as much as they do. So, and they're also an LLC at this point, so there's nothing stopping them from just folding. Before we get a letter of credit when they begin the construction, before that, we don't really have anything solid to hold on to. So,
Okay?
Just a couple of the ongoing projects. We've been working with some of the apartment complexes around town, particularly Windsor Gardens and Norwood Gardens. They've been around for quite a while. A lot of the electrical infrastructure at those locations is getting pretty run down, so they're in the process of doing a lot of replacement work. So we've been working with them as they replace their services and the underground secondaries to the buildings. We're trying to replace the transformers that need to be replaced as well as the primary cables.
So we do the transformers, primary cables, but they have contractors doing the rest of the work.
Yeah,
Okay.
everything from the secondary side of the transformer out is theirs,
Okay.
so. And then, one of the things that Tony had mentioned to us was trying to get some more data to the board in terms of, like, numbers that you can look at. So one of the things we put together this month, we just did a comparison of the kilowatt hours sold compared to between 2024 and 2025 during this time period. You can see it's up a little bit, a little under 1%. We expect that to actually go up more next year, particularly with FM Global and some of the other projects really coming online. The Coakley really hasn't been online in 2025, the new school. And then Moderna's always doing more, and Home Market Foods is up, adding stuff there. And that's a process. So we expect the sales to go up again, a little more next year. The average monthly revenue, it's about a little over 17 cents a kilowatt hour. And then we do a lot of rebates through the conservation program with the customers, taking advantage of the different options. Jason monitors that much more closely than I do, but you can see we spent over $200,000 in rebate expenditures. So I don't know if you have questions about that, or...
Can you explain how that works? Jason?
sure. Yeah, it's just basically, we offer rebates for appliances, thermostats, refrigerators. We have a cordless lawn appliance program now, and that's money going directly back into the resident's pocket. So it's to help promote energization, electrification, and it's important to us that the money goes directly back to the resident's pocket. So far, we've given out $217,000 in 8 months. We shouldn't say given out, we've awarded $217,000 in 8 months. That's not including our solar program. It really isn't a rebate, because it's a contract. So we've, so far this year, there's been 4 residential solar projects. We've given out about $33,000, but the good part of that is we own the SRECs off those projects. So the solar renewable energy credits that are produced by those projects go towards our non-carbon portfolio. So it's a win-win. They get money to put the solar panels on, we get credit towards our non-carbon portfolio.
So I go to Porter's and I buy a brand-new electric range that qualifies. And then I go down the street to Sam's and buy a nice new refrigerator that qualifies. How do I get my money, my rebate?
You just go to norwoodlight.com/rebates, and all the information's right there. There's an application you fill out. It's real easy.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know
It
if
is easy. We have an induction oven, replaced a gas oven, and we did have a rebate on that. It's a really easy process. Thank you,
Glad to hear
Jason.
it. No, thank you for asking. Thank
Did
you,
you have a
Matt.
question, Mike?
No, I didn't know we had those big programs, so I noticed the man went through a bill.
There's a bunch of them. There's EVs, there's home, one of the biggest ones that we've had, 83,000 of the 217 is actually air source heat pumps. So now if you want to do your central air over in your house, we'll give you a rebate to make it electric. So
Did you say 85?
85,000 so far this year is those. So our goal is to match. It's important to point out that people in the town, or residents of the town of Norwood, who are electric customers, are not eligible for the Mass Save programs unless they're a National Grid customer as well. So the purpose of these programs is to supplement that. So we try to match it dollar for dollar so that the people that aren't eligible are.
Right, otherwise our
For our
residents would have been out.
programs. Exactly. So,
Okay. Broadband.
So then we'll get into the broadband. As you know, we're building a fiber to the premise plant. That's about 82% complete. It will be complete by the end of November. The infrastructure plant will be. The multi-dwelling units and some of the other things that, locations we need to go into, those won't be done by the end of November, but the main plant from the head end out will be done by the end of November. Once that's complete, I think you'll see our marketing increase significantly, because then we can make it available to everybody in town. And we're gonna push hard to do training sessions for everybody, whether it's at the senior center and some other locations, because we want people to understand like how to do this. How do you stream? What is streaming? And I think if we can get people get a better understanding of it, they'll like it a lot. So you're gonna see us around a lot more and try to really increase our exposure and our visibility in the community. Rich, you want to talk about any of the, how the installations are going, or the?
Yeah, so Dan pretty much covered it. We're on the home stretch. Pretty excited about that. It's been a long haul. We had material shortages early on in the project that slowed things down, and we're very happy with the crew we're using out there in the field that's building it for us. They're all in on hitting the November 30th date. Like Dan said before, once November 30th hits and they're done, they still have to go around and do some cleanup. It's typical of a build like this, button loose ends up and whatnot. So you'll see probably a quarter of the amount of trucks around town for another 6 months just to clean things up. But again, they've done great. Other builds I've been on in my past places I've worked, there were a lot more issues, residential complaints about issues, whether it be wires in the ground or whatnot, or trucks blocking roads, and we haven't gotten any complaints. So very, very happy with that. The marketing, we're doing targeted marketing. I'm sorry if I'm repeating what you just said, but
No, go ahead.
it's very targeted marketing right now. We don't want to go full-blown marketing yet until November hits, so it can be a across-the-board marketing effort. That's the plan as of right now, and I think pretty much covers it, right?
If I may,
Sure.
so what are you seeing in terms of current activity regarding people moving to streaming? Is it increasing, is it leveling off, or?
Well, actually, you're seeing this, here's streaming and here's
Yeah.
traditional cable, you're seeing this. And
Mhm.
if you guys are familiar with Pew Research, they just came out with a study saying that's like 83% of people today are streaming versus
Wow.
around 36 with traditional cable. But still, what that means for us, to Dan's point, is we've got to do a really solid job helping people migrate over to streaming, which we plan on doing, and that's like a major focus of ours right now. It's senior centers and going to the different MDUs, the larger places, doing events that show people how easy it is. online tools, I think we mentioned before, like My Bundle that we offer.
Yeah.
It's a great program. You can plug in what you want and it builds it. And I've had conversations with people, and by the time we're done talking, they're saving $60, $70 based on, well, like, I'm paying for all this, but I'm only watching this.
Right.
Well, what can we get you into a streaming package that à la carte that down, right? So that you're not, so your bill goes down.
And you've made it easy by putting My Bundle access on your website. So people can go
Yeah.
to the Light Department website and access that tool.
And we'll be advertising that too,
Okay.
a lot more.
We actually have it set up in our lobby as well. If people, like, I don't know how to do this and they want to come in, we have it set up in our lobby that we'll be more than happy to show
Great.
people how to do things.
Okay. Mr. Sad.
You guys closing up, but I just want to tell you, I switched to Node Cable. Streaming is great, fast, simple, and so great there. The crews you have, how many, I see them, they go 24/7 almost. How many trucks do you have, the vans with the boom truck that go up to run the cable?
I couldn't tell
3?
exactly how many, probably, no. Building the plant?
No, building the wires along the street
Yeah.
that people see,
That's the
these
plan,
white,
yeah. About 12 trucks are running.
wow, they're doing a great job. They're moving right to town.
Yeah, they're
Impressed
fast.
with them.
They've been around a while.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, that's a contracted service, that's not 12 vehicles that we own. in our
No, I know
business.
that, yeah. I just told people if they see it on TV and
It's
there's
sold.
white trucks in front of their house, they know it's the cable being run.
Yeah.
No, that's a great job, everybody. Keep up the super job, and Mr. Chairman, that's about it on my end.
Okay. Anything else at this point?
I agree with Mr. Sad.
Thank you, gentlemen, we appreciate
so
it.
Thank you for having us in. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
All right, our next
See you, Mr.
guest
Tabor.
is 7 o'clock, but he's out here, I believe, so we'll bring him right in. So this next appointment is DMS Transportation. He's looking for a livery, or otherwise known as public automobile license from the town of Norwood. Good evening.
Hello, how are you guys doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
You're Mr. Smith.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Just tell us briefly who you are, what's going on, what you want to do, and then we'll
Absolutely.
start asking questions.
Okay, sounds good. No problem. So, Dennis Smith, I want to open a transportation company in Norwood, based out of 451 Walpole Street by Ray's Car Care. I lived in Norwood on 38 Concord Ave for 5 years, and in that time I noticed that there was no actual livery company inside Norwood. There's a lot of companies that are based outside of Boston that advertise Norwood, so I thought that there was definitely a need there. I ran a stretch limousine business for 3 years out of Boston, which was a 10-passenger stretch limousine. That was very successful, but I actually had to sell off the business because I messed up my knee in a soccer game. So once I had all healed up and gone through PT, I wanted to get back into transportation, and corporate transportation and airport is where I'm looking to get into. So I have one vehicle as of right now, a Cadillac Escalade that would be able to provide comfortable service, take families or individuals. And yeah, I've worked for 3 transportation companies, one based out of Canton. Above all, I worked for them before I had started my stretch limousine company, just to learn the business and understand all the different things that you face. And then I worked for Boston Carriage, which is based out of Westwood. And then I worked for corporate limousine on the North Shore. I think it was like Reading, somewhere in the north. But yeah, so that's kind of me.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Sad.
38 Concord Ave.
Yes,
How'd you like the building?
I loved it. I loved it. So a builder had tore down whatever house was there, and he put up a duplex.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved it. But we had our second child, so we had to move to something a little bit bigger. Yeah.
I built that.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's awesome.
My
Yeah,
brother
so
and
we
I,
were on the
thank you.
left. We were on the left side.
Yeah, I know we are.
Yeah, I love that 2-car garage, by the way.
It's big, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Norwood, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm familiar with Ray's Auto, that whole block there.
Yes, yes.
And
exactly.
hopefully you'll get a few more cars and make Norwood great.
That's my hope. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Mr.
I don't have any questions. I thank you for your application and your presentation. It's pretty thorough. And I don't have any questions for you. Thank you, Mr.
Anything, Mr.
Chair.
Lyon?
Yeah, nothing further. Just, you said you have one car now.
Yes.
Is there space where you're will be located to expand if you?
Yeah, so I really don't know where the business will take me at this point, but at the very least, I've told Ray's Car Care, I think 3 spaces is the most that I would need over
Okay.
there. So I knew of the lot and the towing over there that there's enough space that I can.
My car will be there Thursday. It's pretty tight.
Oh, yeah, yes. I know sometimes you pull in and you're like, oh, where? Especially with the big tow trucks for, I think it's Negotians or
Right,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Application looks good. You had someone from Franklin Police as a reference. so
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Thank you. You read our regulations.
Yes, I did.
How do you determine your fees?
So I try to be competitive. So you guys are all familiar with Uber. So there's Uber Comfort and Uber Black. I try to price right in between that. So Uber Comfort's normally something like a Toyota Camry, so it's more legroom, but it's not as nice. And Uber Black is like a Lincoln Town Car, a Cadillac Escalade. So I try to be right in between those both. So currently, if you guys just want to know my pricing, I usually charge between $95 to $135 for a trip to the airport. Is what I'm kind of slating for to look, and that includes tolls and gas and all
What
of
about
that.
waiting time? Any additional charge if
You
you're
know what, I don't
stuck
charge,
waiting?
as of right now, I'm not charging any waiting time. I know there's some companies that also charge an early pickup, so if you're requesting a pickup before 5 a.m., they tack on a fee, but my viewpoint is that it's usually quicker to get to the airport at that time in the morning, so I don't charge more for that. I may charge more for rush hour, that 4
Sure.
to 7, because it takes a lot more time to get down there and get back, so.
The reason I ask is
Yes.
I understand that the limousine business is a negotiated price.
It
Not like a
is.
taxi cab where there's a meter and so forth.
Correct,
And so you're free to negotiate that.
correct.
But one part of our regulations that probably never come up, but I like to emphasize.
Okay.
We haven't actually had anybody apply for a couple of years, so.
Yeah, that's
This
what
is new,
Christine was telling
this is
me.
probably
That's-
new to my board members that I'm even bringing it
Understood.
up.
No problem.
But there's one part in there about if people complain about the fares.
Yeah,
And one of the things that's happened in the past is not that the fare originally asked for is unfair, it's that all of a sudden they're asking for additional.
oh, they're tacking
And-
on extra
and-
stuff.
Right, and
Understood.
something, and then the passenger didn't agree to that, but they're also, for whatever reason, afraid not to pay it, not to say, hey, that's not what we negotiated.
They've already set up the transportation, they don't
And
want to
if we get
risk.
those kind of complaints, just speaking for myself, I would look towards the customer side then. So you have to make
I
sure those kind of things don't
Completely
occur.
understand.
Yeah.
So what I do, if I am gonna have a conversation with the customer, what I've done in the past with my limousine business is I send them an email, and it literally states everything that they're responsible for, and that price does not change. Even if their flight gets delayed 2 hours and I have to wait, I don't change that price. So the only thing that is ever an adjustment, and it's really up to discretion of the customer, is gratuity. So I give them that flat rate, and I said gratuity is completely at your discretion. You can give 10%, you can give 0, you can give 20%. So, but usually everyone will receive an email stating exactly what they're gonna pay.
The other question I have is leaving the car at Ray's. You live in Sharon.
Yes,
Seems that, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that most of the single proprietors
yep,
have their car with them.
understood, yeah.
So if the car's in Norwood and you're at Sharon, isn't that a deterrent to you being able to get in the car and provide the service?
No, because usually most of my reservations will be booked over 48 hours in advance. Most people, this is not kind of like a, oh, I need a quick taxi. This is more,
Right.
I'm going to the airport, I'm taking this trip on
I'm going next week, so I
October
gotta get
12th,
my
yeah.
transportation
So I can
settled.
plan for it. And honestly, if it's a 4 a.m. pickup, I'll just take the truck home and then just drive straight to there for them, yep.
So that's another concern I have.
Yes.
It's not in our regulations,
Okay,
but it's always been, again, my concern that when we have somebody doing storing vehicles in the town,
Okay,
that they be registered in the town.
understood,
And yours is registered elsewhere.
understood.
And if this is a permanent garaging, I think even the insurance regulations require that.
Okay. So you would request that I just move the garaging address to the Norwood address?
Your registration, yeah.
Okay,
That would also affect excise tax. You pay it for us instead of Sharon or whatever,
That makes sense.
whatever other town it's in.
so what I will tell you is when I
It's a pain
applied.
if in 2 months you decide to move it again, but
No,
That's-
absolutely. When I applied for the livery insurance, I actually did put in Norwood as the registered address. The problem is I cannot get my livery plates with the business registration until I receive the livery license,
Yeah,
if that
okay,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
So that's why when I sent in my registration, it's for the current registration, but I've already received the insurance certificate
Yeah.
for the livery license, and they said, once I get the livery permit, then I can get the livery plates, which would then show the
Show.
business address,
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah, it was an odd procedure.
well, I personally like it because we get something out of it. We get the excise tax.
Yeah,
But also I
makes
understand it to be the insurance rules and laws and want to
Yes.
make sure you're complying.
Understood.
Okay, anything further? Any action?
I learned a lot.
I'll
Make a motion to approve.
Seconded by Mr. Donnelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Best of luck.
Thank you very
Good luck.
much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Proceed with paperwork.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Take care.
Guys, have a good evening.
Good evening.
Appreciate it.
Is our next appointment out there yet?
Yeah, I believe so.
Next appointment is also for a limousine license, a public vehicle, which is Boston Travel Limousine. Gentleman's living at 82 Railroad Ave, and he submitted his application before us. Introduce yourself, tell us basically what you want to do, how you're going to operate, and then we'll take it from there.
My name is Saeed Nassaf. I came to the United States in 1980. I've been here for 40 years. I'm a grandfather, and I've been doing livery and taxi since I came in here. That's how I paid for my kids' college and my education. I bought a nice car, and I wanted to do livery. I already have the license, and I already have the livery plate. The only thing I'm lacking is when I go to Logan Airport, they require a $1 million insurance, which I did. I did $1 million insurance, but they want me to get a license where I live, where I park the car, which is in 82 Railroad, and I have enough space for the livery. I usually work with my clients. I have about 15 clients that I do transfer to Logan Airport from Weston to Logan 24/7. And I also have a hacking license from Cambridge, which I don't use anymore. I used to own a taxi, and as you know, Uber ate our lunch. So I'm doing it on my own. I'm 62 years old. I'm a retired veteran, so I just do this, with my clients. And when I went to Logan to get the ticket, they want me to get the license.
Yeah, they won't let you in
They
without
won't. Either that, or because I own a corporation, or I changed the name of the corporation to Boston, and then it's gonna be free. But I didn't want to do that since I live here, and I pay my excise tax here, so I'd rather just be in town. And
So it is Boston, you're still using the Boston name.
no, Boston Travel Limo. Yeah, it's been for like 20 years. It's
Yeah.
online.
That's fine.
www.bostontravellimo. I do reservation online. 90% of my clients is airport transfer, 24/7. So the business is not doing that well, as you know, in transportation. So we're trying to cut down in prices and be in a range less than Uber, even though you provide a good car and everything. But some of my clients have been with them for 10 years and 15 years, and
Okay,
Just
so
making
you're
a
coming here
living.
from Arlington?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have a license when you were in Arlington from Arlington?
No, I didn't need one. I didn't need a license.
So
But
you-
I have
So
a
you weren't
hack.
going into the airport, or they didn't, weren't?
No,
questioning
no,
you?
I was going to the airport, but I didn't need the license that you guys, because Arlington didn't have that.
Didn't have it.
They give me a piece of paper stating that no obligation. But I go to Logan Airport and I pay the $3.50
Mhm.
to get a ticket every time that I go there, so it's just,
And where do you get your customers?
I had my customer for so long that I,
Mostly just repeat?
yeah, repeat clients, yes.
Do you do any local like advertising? Would you advertise local?
I do advertise a little bit online with Google. What I was thinking also is to advertise with the newspapers, because a lot of old timers don't believe in phones. They read the newspapers, and it's easier. And I will do that.
Mhm.
And I really don't want a lot of clients. I'm by my own, and my son helps me a little bit, but I
Right.
just, I'm set. My kids.
Any questions, Mr. Sag?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
part of the Nassif clan from West Roxbury?
No.
No? Okay.
Who is Nasser?
And a local builder?
Oh, that's
No.
Nassif, the Lebanese guys.
Yeah. No, good luck. I think you'll
Thank
do
you,
well,
sir.
and just keep plugging,
Thank you, sir.
and good luck with your adventure. That's
Thank
it,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? Anything else? Motion? Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Lane. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah.
If the town needs my service,
We know where you live.
I needed it a couple weeks ago, too late
Close to the
now.
attorney's office.
All right, that's our appointments for this evening, so we'll go into the new business. First item, capital plan, improvement plan, and you're handling this, Mr., are we starting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board is aware Capital Outlay has approved their, completed their work for the year and approved a capital outlay plan to present to town meeting. We're gonna go through that briefly tonight with the board. It will be on, obviously, the warrant, which we'll take a vote on at a later date, but I will go through. I can answer any questions the board has, and it'll give you time over the next few weeks to dig into any of the projects in depth or have any conversations with me or any member of my team about any of these particular projects. So I think the board's well aware of the capital outlay process. Departments review their needs, and then the condition is based on project's useful life. We do try to replace items in infrastructure at its useful life. Clearly, given the situation that we're in, sometimes things go well beyond its useful life, which is okay. Capital Outlay recommends how to fund capital expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year. They also go and take a deep dive into a lot of the different capital projects. They'll visit the buildings, they'll take a look at the equipment, and work with department heads on understanding the need. The Board of Selectmen and the Finance Commission review the Capital Outlay Committee recommendations. Ultimately, those recommendations go to town meeting, and implementation begins after the fall town meeting. The project progress is reviewed by the board. We send a monthly report, and the process repeats annually. So the proposed funding sources for this year's capital plan, approximately $3.3 million from free cash, $8 million from general fund borrowing, $5 million from water rates borrowing, $500,000 of which is a MWRA grant/loan, and $25,000 from the recreation revolving fund. So I'm just gonna start going through the projects. Grab me or stop me if you wanna go back. First project up is paving the extension runway safety areas of the airport, $300,000. These funds encompass the town's share of the project. Most airport projects are either 90% federally funded and 10% town funded, or 90% federally funded, 5% state funded, and 5% town funded. So the amounts you see are our share of the total project. Secondary airport project is just helipad lighting for the north and south helicopter parking circles. This just installs some lighting to the parking circles, bringing it up into a little bit more of a modern safety standard. The roof replacement at the Willett School, as the board knows, we did went through a process a few years ago to look at all of our roofs and determine in what order and what buildings needed roof replacements. The Willett is up first at a projected cost of $3 million. You can see some of the leakage damage throughout the building on the roof. We do anticipate utilizing that facility for quite some time, so this is first up on our roof replacements. Study of HVAC at the elementary schools. Currently, the schools do need some upgrades to their HVAC systems. Most of our elementary, actually all of our elementary schools were built prior to air conditioning being a little bit more of the norm in the classroom. We get by that in some buildings by a hodgepodge of different window units and other sort of patch systems. It's time we look at it and see how we can properly provide this service. Sometimes there's requests, whether it's a student request or it's a faculty member health request, to have some cooling in the building. So we handle it on an individual basis, but we really got to look at the best way to actually do it, and that might require some electrical upgrades to the buildings.
Sad. Yeah, by the way, if you have a question,
Yeah,
just
just
jump in so we get them
Tony,
asked.
I was thinking of this, and you went by me quick. The roof replacement at Willet,
Yep.
what, maybe the facilities with the whole team, looking at maybe putting a hip roof on that? Would it make sense?
We would go out to bid, and we would bring in an architect and an engineer to design the roof.
Yeah,
and
I
give us
think
the best
because
option.
the rubber roof is super expensive. And if you get one leak in there, you'll never find it.
Yep.
All right.
What this HVAC study will, I don't anticipate that any of our elementary schools are all of a sudden gonna have entirely new air cooling systems in them, but there's a way that we can achieve a majority of what we need to do at a more reasonable cost. We have to study the electrical infrastructure, and make sure we can come up with a plan to address it, because we will be running our elementary schools for the foreseeable future. Even though some of these buildings are on the older side, we will be using them for quite some time to come. And not that it's relevant, but I always like to point out, 1962, we built the Oldham, we paid cash for it. So, carpeting and other flooring replacement in the public safety building. As the building approaches its 20 years, most commercial carpet is only generally good for around that period of time. It starts to build up dirt, dust, and mold, and this is just a planned, scheduled replacement of some of the interior carpet in the areas where they work, keeping up with our maintenance buildings. The public safety building, we should probably look at a replacement schedule a little bit more often than that, just given that the buildings are used 24/7 in the nature of the work, but we've gotten 20 years out of it and then some. So we are running our facilities to a great degree, to the farthest extent that we can.
You need a better picture, because from here it doesn't look bad.
You know what it is? It doesn't show in the picture. There's a grime line down the middle. If you actually go look at it, the picture doesn't make it look bad, but it's all grime down the middle.
Tony, you could have explained that that carpet was actually white when we bought it.
As I said, it's hard to see in the picture, but there's
Somebody be
a
fired for that.
there's a grime line down the middle. Speaking of replacing aging facilities, the kitchen at the Civic Center, and this is used for programming, as you can see, dates back to at least the early 80s, probably when we took over the building. We do need to do some work for it. It is used, it's not like a staff kitchen, it's used for recreational programming. The rec revolving fund is gonna pay some of the cost of this amount of money, and some coming out of free cash. We're, the cost is reasonable given what we're doing. You'll probably see a replacement of the appliances and some steel tables. I know, I don't want anyone to think, geez, $50,000, that's relatively cheap for a kitchen renovation. We're not talking about putting in nice cabinets that go to the ceiling. It's really a residential grade kitchen now, and we're really keeping it in that fashion, probably replacing it with steel tables and just replacing the equipment. Mike, is it sad?
This would be a great project for Blue Hills to take on. Easy, simple,
no, I
easy
don't
peasy, no?
They don't ever do any type of commercial or municipal. They really only do single
All right.
family homes.
Okay. Won't be a great one.
Speaking of kitchens, the next project up is to replace some of the appliances at the senior center of the kitchen. So this is not a replacement or renovation of the kitchen, it's the equipment that's running the end of its useful life, and it's time to start replacing it. This is actually our probably our most used kitchen. Honestly, probably gets more use than the average school kitchen. It cooks meals every day for the senior lunch program, and then weekly in the winter, in the summer when they're running their evening program. But the equipment is getting to the end of its service life. We also use the senior kitchen. This building is a backup facility if we did need to create a shelter system and be able to produce a lot of food for folks. This is one of the kitchens that we would use. We equipped this building with a generator a few years ago because it can produce commercial grade food much greater extent than any other kitchens we have available. Sorry, keep going the wrong direction. Facade issues at the library. I want to talk for a moment about the library. We began a few years ago to look at doing some interior, I wouldn't call it renovation work, I would call it condition upgrading, something short of a renovation. We realized that the building had some leaks. We said, let's pause and let's actually study the building and make sure that we don't spend $100,000 on new paint and another $100,000 on furniture and carpets and everything, and then get into an issue where we still have leaks. So we've studied the building. There's sort of two phases to the work that needs to get done. The first is repairing some of the facade issues. So this would seal up the building on the outside, seal it up from the inside, Phase 2 would be some HVAC and other improvements that we would need to make, but we're not looking at a complete renovation of the library. It doesn't need a complete renovation. It was largely renovated in the 90s, so it's in good shape, but we do need to seal up the exterior. We'll have to look at whether we need windows, and then there'll be some additional work on the inside and some of the MEP work to just make sure it's modern and that we're not having any infiltration. And then we can go ahead with some restoration of things like carpets and painting on the inside. So I know there was some discussion that, geez, are we doing a full renovation of the library? We're not. That's not on the plan. We're decades from that. But we have to address some of the water infiltration issues, and then we'll have to look at some of the water infiltration issues in the MEP system. But we also don't need, at this point, it doesn't appear that it needs a new HVAC system. The chiller unit for the HVAC there is 5 or 6 years old. Oops, sorry about that. Next out is design money and feasibility for a turnout gear room. If you see the picture on the left there, that is our turnout gear. It is currently stored on the apparatus floor. For many years now, best practice has been that you should not store gear on the floor where it can be exposed to any harmful chemicals or anything coming off of the trucks. Even though we have exhaust systems, there's still exhaust that gets pumped in there. This area on the back rear side of the fire department public safety building is really the only place we've identified we think we can put a gear room. This is going to be a construction project. We're not looking to do anything other than a gear room unless we can get some storage space out of it. So we need to bring in an engineer to look at it and say, okay, if we wanted to do the smallest, simplest, cheapest addition of the building, how would we get that done? And can we find a way to store the gear off of the floor where it's not exposed to any potential harms?
Talking about gear for the
Turnout gear.
staff that's not on duty,
No, this is the on-duty gear.
and they're gonna be able to get to that easy enough and
Yes,
not affect time response or anything?
correct.
I would say that Chief Bailey did a very good job explaining the need, but there's still a pending question as to where we're going to put those reindeer that are in.
One problem at a time, Mr. Donnelly. Well, that's what, I mean, we're not talking about an addition to the public safety building. We're talking about, could we do a steel add-on to
Yes.
the side of the building
Right.
just to store the gear? If we can get some storage room, as you know, we are space constrained on that site, on the lot, and town-wide. But we're not looking to spend $5 million just to store gear somewhere. We need to find a reasonable solution. We're hoping that, that there will be able to be one.
Maybe that could go down to the light department.
There you go. And this would be followed based on the design by a capital project to convert this space into a storage.
Some sort of storage. So absolutely. We queue those up with sort of design or feasibility in 1 year and then construction the next year, with the understanding that it might be 2 years down the road, just because we have to actually get the design, look at it. We're gonna have to make sure that we bring on an engineer or an architect that understands what we're looking at, appropriate storage for our gear. We're not looking for a renovation of the building, we're not looking for a giant addition. And sometimes architects build monuments to themselves, as we say, and we're not looking at that. So this one might take us a little bit of time, but the goal is to start the process to figure out how we can get the gear off of the floor. That area is our suggestion. It seems what to do what makes sense to us. They might come back with something different.
Thank you, Mr. Tony, when the building was first designed, was gear commonly stored inside, and it's just, we've evolved since
This
then?
is an industry change that, given the toxicity of the gear that firefighters wear, the amount of PFAS that is in the gear,
Right.
and you're talking about adding toxins from harmful fuels, and if trucks are getting washed in the bay, what they're coming back with.
So any town that's building a new safety building, they're not putting it inside? like
Correct.
that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
On the gear itself, there's been talk about the materials used and new stuff coming out. Are we getting any of the new stuff? Or?
There hasn't been any PFAS-free gear that's been released and tested yet. There was a company that came out and said they invented or they developed PFAS-free gear, and then it turned out that it just had it in another place. So we are committed to, as soon as there's something on the market, we will swap out the gear. It has a 10-year life cycle. We're only at, I think, year 3 or 4 of the current gear, but it's a significant enough health issue for firefighters that we'll swap it out as soon as there's something there. Hopefully, if it works with our replacement timeline, great. If next year a company comes out and says, we actually have PFAS-free gear, and it's proven to be so, that'll be, at the next town meeting available to make sure we can do that.
Okay, sounds good.
Engine 1, our ladder is time for replacement. So unfortunately, the lead time for ladder trucks is looking at 3 years or so. It's a $3 million appropriation. The base cost came in around at $2.6 to $2.7 million, but as the board knows, we make sure we ask for the entire amount to purchase and equip a vehicle. Trucks, tires is an example for vehicles like this, $2,000 or more each. So we just make sure we buy everything with the vehicle, so we're not coming into town meeting with a low price and then doing a reserve transfer or asking money at town meeting in 6 months for different money. What we're actually gonna try to do is we're asking for the full borrowing authorization at town meeting. That allows us to issue the purchase order, and then we're gonna try to make 3 cash payments for the truck, because we'll save a little bit by doing a couple of progress payments at each point. Probably save us $100,000 in the overall cost of the truck, maybe a little bit less, so that's the goal, but we need that full authorization in the event we don't have cash in year 2 or 3, and we need a full authorization to get be able to issue a purchase order, particularly for something of this size. We're also on due for another ambulance. The cost of ambulances, much like trucks, has skyrocketed. Hopefully, once we have a new hospital in a couple of years, which we're confident is going to happen, we can slow down the replacement schedule for ambulances, but we're realistically looking at 1 year or every other year, given the wear and tear on the vehicles.
How many ambulances do we have?
So we operate 2 ambulances.
Yeah.
We keep between 2 and 3 of our prior ambulances as spares. We used to not keep that many because we were just limping back and
Keep
forth.
one.
Correct.
And then we always there's a regional backup as well.
There is.
Well, there was.
There is. The problem is once you take that and you got to swap out the gear, but we don't have the same reliability with the travel that we're doing. Our ambulance service was never built to not have a hospital in town. If we had never had a hospital in town, we'd probably be running 3 or 4 ambulances with an additional 3 or 4. So we're trying to find that balance of taking care of the public, making sure that we're being fastidious with taxpayer money, and we were never designed to operate this way.
So if we keep 2 or 3 as a practical matter, and we're getting a new one,
We'll cycle the oldest ones out.
do they get traded in? Do they get
If there's
scrapped out? What do they?
We try to trade them in if there's any value.
All right, thank you.
And I think I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I think one of the positives here is that when you do purchase a new fire ambulance, we are asking for a combination of general fund and free cash. But we do know that ambulance revenue is received and it goes into the general fund. So.
Sure, exceeds $2 million a year. So depending on how you look at it, we've never paid for an ambulance. It's paid by the ambulance receipts. Other towns manage their ambulance fund differently, and they put it into a separate fund. They pay these expenses. We take all the revenue to the general fund, and we pay all the expenses out of the general fund. That's a good point. Sorry, this keeps changing. IT needs the Hyper-V system to be replaced. The Hyper-V runs a lot of our core applications, including our financials, payroll, personnel, and permitting. So this is the physical hardware. It is approaching the end of its life cycle and needs to be replaced to ensure that we can reasonably continue to operate our IT systems. Replacement of police tasers is on here. This is sort of a lease purchase agreement. We've discussed about trying to work this into the operating budget at some point. However, we have been deficit spending the last couple of years. So when we move certain things into the operating budget, it's just paying for it in free cash in another way. At the board's request last year, we prepared a proposal to look at a couple-year program for sidewalk repair and replacement. As the board knows, we spent 5 years with an increased road pavement program to get our roads to a certain standard. We only did sidewalks if they were a part of that road work that needed to be done. So now we're looking at, can we address sidewalks? Year 1 of that plan, $950,000. The last time we did this was about 2015, and then prior to that in about 2005, where we did additional appropriations to make sure we got caught up with sidewalk. It'd be great to put more money in the budget for it. As you know, the direct money in the budget has been reduced every year. That being said, every couple of years, we're gonna need to look at making sure we have capital projects for sidewalks and for roads to make sure we don't get away from it.
So if we have a 950 this year, and this is great, this is exactly what we wanted and Mr. Ryan provided. Year 2 and year 3 in the long-term plan, we also have
Correct.
plans, not this level, but pretty close to
I
it.
think it drops to 750
Yeah,
and
for
550,
2 years,
so
and
we're
then-
spreading out the 3 years to get our
Right,
sidewalks
right.
where we want to do.
And at the end, when we get to complete the 3rd year, then it's a matter of, like our roads, that we will maintain the sidewalks by way of our normal operating budget.
Correct, which is what we do. It's just the reconstruction ends up being that cost. We are with that road budget, call it year 4 of the capital plan. We're probably gonna need to start putting in a replacement, for instance, for Washington Street, because the cost of doing a large road in town, it's the same thing with the sidewalks. It would eat up everything we have in a given year. We can spend Chapter 90 money on sidewalks, but I know I think Pleasant Street was an example. We did an estimate. It's probably $2 million if you did that one end to the other. You know, that's a significant amount of money that, a prospect, sorry, I was
Yeah.
speaking of.
That's as asphalt?
That's if you did sidewalks for the whole end from.
As asphalt, not concrete?
Correct. Concrete costs more, so when you see a concrete berm, it costs more. We sometimes get the question, why do certain streets have the concrete and some streets, the granite curbing, I should say, and some streets don't have granite curbing? We've always historically done the denser streets closer to the main roads is where you get the granite curbing. So a further out street is likely to get Cape Cod burn, but it is downtown, all the way along Washington Street, and then the streets off of Washington Street.
It's important that you do have sort of a procedure or policy like that, because I believe granite curbing is at least 5, 6, 7 times the cost of.
It's quite a bit more.
Well, you hit a sore spot for me because for years, I constantly bring up having a defined policy because it seems to be hit or miss which streets are getting done. It should be the main streets, first of all, it would be the granite curbing but we just did a couple I'm looking at yesterday, side streets, little side streets done beautifully. I love it, but they're the side streets, not the main streets. And you go to that very same main street that they intersect with, and it's all crumbling sidewalks. And the street was done a couple of years back. Sidewalks weren't done at the same time. There's got to be some more unified method of deciding which ones to do and when to do them. I know it all costs money, and it seems easy at times to skip, but while you're in an area, that's when you spend the money in that area.
Sure, and sometimes it's a balance of, do we do 5 streets and 2 sidewalks, 3 streets and 5 sidewalks? Do you do a road that has a sidewalk in fair condition and a road in terrible condition and do them both? Or do we say, no, the sidewalk can last 10 years? There is no perfect solution, and it's always gonna be a game of whack-a-mole. Perfect world, every road would get done every 10 years and everyone would have granite curbing. I need another $100 million a year to make that happen, but your point is well taken, Mr. Chairman. Finally, as you know, most DPW regular vehicles, so pickups and whatnot, are replaced through the operating budget, but we do bring larger capital purchases. We have our 2007 salt truck number 47, that is ready to be replaced. Mr. Ryan did make a good point at, I believe, the last capital outlay meeting, that with the construction of the new DPW facility and taking most of our vehicles, being able to wash and maintain them better and keeping them off the, not being outside, we're getting a good long life out of our vehicles. I mean, this is a 2007 truck, so that's a good lifeline for a truck that size. Route 1, we need design money that will come from an MWRA grant and loan. We do need to look at replacing some of the water mains on Route 1 prior to the state doing the University Ave work that we've been planning for 9,000 years. So this is just us making sure we're doing all the work to unlock that state and federal funding to get that intersection and that work actually done.
And this one, I'm trying to recollect. Originally, I think we were looking maybe more like $1 million project for the total thing, but we've got some good news that the state should pick up
Some of the cost.
Some of the cost?
Part of the cost, yeah. We try to move as much to saying that this is what we would replace, but you're doing the project, we wouldn't otherwise replace it, so.
We need to replace, but they're.
Correct. It was, I think, the chambers that we were
Yes.
worried we would have to move, and we were able to convince them that, well, they're the ones that have to move them. This is the main that we actually, this is our infrastructure that we have to replace.
So this intersection's already on their schedule, the
Yes.
tip or whatever you call it. But now we want to do this before that.
Yes, we have to do it before
Do
that.
we have an idea when they're going to do that?
30/31 is when they think they're gonna do it. I know.
30/31.
So,
I think you meant 2031.
well, fiscal,
I think he's more right.
no, actually, I think you're wrong, Bob. I think I did mean 30. Fiscal 30, fiscal 31
Oh, my
is
God.
when they're looking at it. So it gives us enough time to make sure we get everything done that we need to do.
I won't
As
hold
you-
my breath.
Yeah, as you know, these tip projects tend to go on for quite a while. And then the most important project that we do every year is year 6 of our 10-year plan to line all of our water main lines. This will continue. We will be pausing in fiscal, it looks like 28 and 29. We decided we would take a 2-year pause to absorb the debt service increase from the water tank project. That'll likely be FY 28 and 29. We also might be bringing a proposal to the board to do some of that work. The town of Walpole wants to have a sewer or water interconnection That might do some work that may adjust the schedule in the out years. We don't have that ready to bring to the board yet, but some of that work might happen in these out years where we're not doing our lining because we're taking a pause. And
We're
everyone
gonna
can
get another project, they're testing now for federal regulations, and I think we sent out notices that say if it's from the connection to the house, the property owner owns it, unfortunately.
correct.
But do we have any idea of how much it's gonna be on the town side and what we're gonna have to have huge projects?
For the lead water connectors,
Yes.
we've been addressing it as aggressively as we can. It could be costly. That might be something that kicks out the water lining project once we know an additional year, where we might say, look, we're taking a 2-year pause. If that ends up being a significant cost, that might be something where we need to take a 30-year pause because we have to bear
Do
that
you know how
cost.
many years that decision is?
We'll probably know within a year what we're gonna need to do for lead service replacements. And of course, unfortunately, the EPA is changing daily.
Okay, thank you.
And second to last but not least, the renovation of the outdoor bathrooms at the lower Balch. The bathroom and story area around the lower Balch field, or sometimes called the Elliott Field, there's been damage to the structure, and the storage unit and the buildings are separate units, and it's just time we look at a replacement of, or a renovation and seeing what we can do to have a little bit more of a resilient facility down there.
Tell you the truth, I didn't even know they were used.
Used and abused.
And
Very
that-
much abused.
And they get damaged. Unfortunately, they're in a kind of a remote area, and people inside, who knows what they're doing, but anyway, we're gonna be able to prevent that or make that,
We have added some additional security measures in the last year that has reduced the recurring vandalism in our ability to know what's going on down there.
okay?
That being said, to your point, it is, no matter how many lights and cameras you have, it's behind an elementary school on a field late at night.
Yeah,
And the doors will be secure.
Correct.
So.
They're not
you know,
open
it's not gonna-
24/7.
They're not gonna be open 24/7, only when there's an activity there.
Correct.
and who opens and closes that?
Facilities.
Facilities does? So every time there's sporting events, like if they're on the weekends, facilities?
It's part of their regular, either facilities or DPW to know what to unlock and when. It's
Yeah.
all part of the schedule.
Okay.
That's the conclusion of the capital plan.
All
I'm happy
right,
to take any questions, otherwise the board has plenty of time to get in touch with me or any member of my staff and ruminate over these various
we'll take
projects.
final votes to support.
Yeah, we'll likely be at your first October meeting.
The only questions I personally would have, I think the capital A committee's done a good job in identifying needs, working with the department heads. The only questions might be, do we agree on how to finance them? So,
Yeah, I would just like to take a moment, to that point, Mr. Chair, to also just thank the Capital Outlay Committee. You know, we started meeting in early this year, setting out our project work, and we met several times in the spring, which included not only our meetings with department directors, so the chiefs came in, Mr. Ryan came in, really made strong cases for their projects, Mr. Riccardi as well. We had our Touch a Truck event out here, which allowed the fire chief and the police chief and Mr. Ryan brought in the schools as well, brought some of the vehicles that they want to replace. We have brought Mr. O'Neill in for discussion regarding our ways and means of borrowing, which was great. And I just want to do a kudos, not only to the committee, but to the department staff that came in and provided such good detail to the Capital Outlay Committee, resulting in this recommendation from them as we see here today. So thank you.
thank you. All right, now, we're gonna go to the yellow sheets, warrant, or we're gonna jump right to water and sewer rates?
Well, 4.2 was the review of the warrant and yellow sheets, and I'm going to ask that we table that just for 2 more weeks. The board has a draft. You can certainly reach out with any questions. We just have 1 or 2 items that we're still working on that we want
Maybe
to
adding or
complete.
suggesting being added or whatever?
Correct.
All right, so no objections, we'll table that.
And we would like to move to a water sewer rate update. We do have Mr. O'Neill, our CFO, here to talk about water sewer rates, and then he'll work with me as we go through our general budget financial update when we get there. With that, Mr. O'Neill.
Sure, thank you.
Good evening, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Call to the bullpen, I'm here. Jeff O'Neill, Director of Finance, Town Accountant. Mr. Mizuko asked me to give you a brief water sewer rate update, more so a picture of the fiscal year 2025 that we just came through. As you can see on your slide, it is going to be a very brief update, but happy to answer any questions. So fiscal year 2025 performance, and I always want to caveat this with, it's unaudited. These are our figures. We do not have retained earnings certification yet. So it looks like our revenue is going to be slightly over budget, roughly $22.6 million. That's 100.77% of the budget.
Revenues, not cost.
Revenue is correct.
Thank you.
So, yep, and expenditures are 22 million, so those are about 98% of budget. So if these numbers hold, we will be adding just under $600,000 to the retained earnings, bring our balance up to about 1.3 million, or roughly 5.95% of the fund.
What was retained earnings, then we had to use some, are we back there yet?
Correct, we used some, I believe, 2 years ago, we dipped into that. This year, we're adding these almost
Yeah, but
$600,000.
what's the delta, how close are we getting it all back?
I don't recall what was used 2 years
Okay.
ago. I
We can
gotta
look that
figure that out, but yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we're gonna get up to the 5.95%.
We're going in the right direction.
Correct.
And you're speaking, so we're approaching the recommended target from the auditing standards that we spoke about last time.
Correct. 10% is our
10%, thank
recommended
you.
target, and we did include that in the fiscal '26 budget, was our goal to get there.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
So that's kind of the fiscal year '25 update. The '26, obviously, we only have 2 months. We've had one good month, one bad month, compared to the budget, so we're very early. It's really too early to tell what's going to happen. So as you see here, my recommendation is, let's get a few more months of data in, let's get our retained earnings certification, which we expect in October. See where we stand on the fund, see where we have performed for another 3 or 4 months. And then we can kind of do what we did last year, is set a hearing for January and target a March rate increase. As I mentioned down the bottom, and I know you did talk about it on capital, between the water tanks, water improvement program, we do have some debt coming on in this fund, so expenses are not going down, so it is in all
So-
likelihood that we will be asking to increase rates.
So you don't have a projection that the current rate is satisfactory, you're saying we need more time?
Correct. Right, so right now, there's a slight variance to budget if we project that out. It's slightly negative to budget, but because we built in some capacity for the fund balance or retained earnings, we might be okay. But again, with 2 months, it's very early in the year to
Yeah,
make that
that's my
statement.
concern too, the more we wait, if we decide, don't decide, but if the facts of the matter are that an increase is needed, the increase has to be that much higher as a percentage at that point to get in the money that's necessary to cover the cost.
Correct.
So how long do we think we need to wait?
Again, my recommendation is we get another 3 months of data.
Another 2 months?
Yeah, we look at it and, we'll have a financial picture as of December. We should be able to go in January with a target of March again.
I guess I would say, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
could, that the previous time that we did have a rate hearing, I think the action we took, it sounds to me like it contributed to our improvement in our retained earnings,
That's correct,
which was a
yes.
goal that we wanted to attain
Right.
for the rate increase, which is an important factor, or not only from an accounting perspective, but I think it's probably like related to reserves that we have for general government, where these are things that our bond creditors will look at in terms of maintaining our good credit rating. So I think that's, I think we'll give ourselves a pat in the back. I think we made the right decision several months ago with that rate increase that improved retained earnings and gets us on a good path going forward.
That's what I don't want to lose, though. I want to make sure we keep our eye on that ball.
Exactly.
Sure. One of the important things to remember, the rate setting process, it's about 2 months. So even if we decided, hey, July 1st, we want to raise rates, it's probably 2 to 2.5 months before those rates are actually being raised. We have to have a hearing, we have to have the data, and then it takes us some time to get the new rates in. We have to give notification. So,
Well, that's what I'm saying, we really can't wait too long.
well, but if we're targeting March, which is around when we did it last year, we're talking about an increase that would be effective March. We would probably be having that hearing January, February.
I know I won't be popular with the public, but I want this fund to be solvent at all times and have the reserves. I would rather see an increase, and when we show that, if we can show that the increases are necessary, have a decrease, or hold it next time instead of another increase, than to hold off and find we're short and have to have a big increase and big uproar. And so I think we need a balance of how we approach this.
One of the challenges, I guess, of an enterprise fund, we'll know exactly where we are with retained earnings mid-October, maybe a little bit earlier. That lets us know where we are. Do we, what's the size of the surplus? What's our cushion, and where are we?
Could you come back to us perhaps, because we're looking at a January, February hearing, would be looking at a November, December timeline for an update?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once we know retained earnings, that's look, if that number's off quite a bit, then it's not a pleasant conversation.
Well, this update was supposed to be in July,
Yeah.
so.
But we're trying to monitor how we're actually doing, particularly over the summer, which is where we have our wildest swings.
And again, like I
It's
mentioned.
gonna rain tonight, tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
We're
not
all
good.
set.
We don't want rain. That's the
What is
problem.
rain?
Yeah, we had too much rain, all those weekends in a row we had rain. That's not good for this fund. So like I said, the projection for right now is it's slightly off budget, but not so bad that we, there's a concern, because we did build in some capacity to build up that fund balance. So we do have a
But I don't
little
wanna
bit.
have to tap that balance.
No, we're not gonna, no, that's not what I'm saying. We're not gonna have to tap that balance unless we have a dramatic change in the water sales. But that balance, the goal of that balance was to increase it at the end of next year, to get up to that 10% target. So maybe we don't hit the 10%, but we're not going below, our 6% that we are now.
Okay. Sounds good, I guess.
I think we can wait 2 months. He's on the right track.
Got a cheerleader over there.
He's a awful bill.
And I guess we're on a good steady path in terms of our revenue from our sales. I don't think we've had the bumps in the road from high water users that we've had in the past.
Correct. And we're always working to make sure we're replacing meters and identifying any leaks in the system and bringing down the unallocated water lossage numbers. So that's all having positive effects. It is a weather-dependent business at the end of the day. And in terms of the fund balance, Mr. Plasko's absolutely right, but we're at the tail end now of it was quite complicated to unmingle our funds because we had this single fund structure. So the best way to have gone and done that would have been to throw a couple $1 million in there and we would have been fine. We sort of did it on a song and a prayer where we said, well, let's just separate it out and hope it all works out. And it has so far. So we took a little bit of a risk, but that risk has paid off. We didn't need to use any additional funding to get us where we are, but we are now following best practices for financial management, and we have a little bit of a cushion in there. And that cushion's important not just for a credit rating, but remember, if the fund doesn't collect enough to cover its expenses, that money comes out of somewhere. And that's usually, it ends up being that it comes out of free cash. Well, that's money that we can't put into other funds. It's money we can't balance the budget. So it does directly come out of people's pockets that we have to make it up somewhere.
That's one of the reasons why it's important that we have the enterprise fund and we do these kinds of analysis, because it's really not a good strategy to have to use free cash to pay for your water utility.
Right, your water deficits. I do wonder, maybe what we can start doing with the board is try to target this quarterly with a regular financial update and just always look at water and sewer each quarter and how we're doing.
Clarification of the timeline. It said 2 months, but we talked about January for a potential March increase, decrease, whatever it needed to be, if any change. That's 3 months from now to January. What is that, to 2 months of data and 1 month to
Correct.
get it all together and make sure where we are?
Correct, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question. Just if somebody comes in, they want to build 50 apartments in Norwood or 100, do we charge them per the meter, or do they get a discount, or can we?
There's no discount.
Can we increase that?
No, we can't unilaterally target multifamily apartments or anything like that for different water sewer rates. What we do for larger apartment complexes, we don't sub-meter the apartments. We have 1 meter. So you take like an Avalon or an Upland Woods, there's 1 meter that goes into that property. The owners can then sub-meter and do whatever the heck they want. We have 1 meter going in. That's the bill that we issue and we charge. So in a sense, that's how we save money by saying we don't sub-meter rental units like that.
Okay. And if we did, what would happen?
We're not, you're not allowed to generally. You're not supposed to be able to have a water meter attached to a rental unit. The reason being that if somebody doesn't pay the bill, you can't lien the rental unit.
Well, I know that part, but I'm just saying it's a revenue enhancement.
To try to, candidly, that would probably be a civil rights violation. Charging somebody in an apartment complex more for water than somebody in another place is not something I think that we could do.
All right, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anything further?
Nothing.
Okay,
We'll move on to our general budget and financial update.
sure. Gonna keep Mr. O'Neill on the hot seat.
Just a minute here. So I'll cue off, these are the topics we're gonna go through, and then Mr. O'Neill will take us through the first few. We are gonna talk about next year's projected deficit, what a level service amount would look like, what a budget would look like if we offset it with nothing, and I wanna preface that with that's not a realistic expectation, but we're gonna look at some scary figures. And then we're gonna talk about what we're doing going into fiscal '27, some unknown challenges, where the town school budget's at, and then the override that we all know is coming down the pipeline. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. O'Neill.
Okay, sure. So projected deficit. So this is what we'll call our bare bones, our first pass at the budget of what we think we're going to see for fiscal '27. Obviously, we took a look at property tax revenue, the 2.5%. We're going to go up there. We're going to hold new growth steady. We have the excluded debt, so our total revenue is going to be about $165 million. You'll notice that's down from the year prior. Obviously, we use the free cash in this current budget. Expenditures, again, this is totally caveated. We held expenditures for town and school at 4% increase. We think that's a kind of a base level of where we could be. Obviously, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to refine those numbers, but we just wanted to give you a projection of where we think we are just on a baseline number. So with the 4%, you'll see shared costs is 3.85. We do have some, well, mostly fixed costs in there with our debt, the regional schools, so that is not 4% because we do have some debt coming off. Obviously, if we do decide to put some on, that number is going to change. So again, bare bones of base budget of what we think our deficit would be is right just over $11 million.
Let me know when you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. We can just chug along. So what would that look like? This is obviously the page from our budget book where we break it down between the various entities within town, school, facilities, and shared costs. So you'll see, again, the general government, public safety, infrastructure, health and human services, culture and recreation are all up 4%. General fund, 4%. Schools, 4%. Facilities, 4%. Shared costs were up that 3.85%. So again, just showing you that the total operating budget is $171 million. Other amounts to be raised, those are our cherry sheets that we have to raise and overlay. So our overall budget would be $176 million versus the just under $169 million that we have approved for this year. Get on to this.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? And again, this is just purely mathematical. If we take a pro rata reduction based on the fiscal year '26 approved budget, we know we have an $11 million deficit. How do we mitigate that? Again, purely mathematical. We're assuming we're going to, in the far right, the proposed reduction dollar amount, and then the percent of that reduction. So for example, general government, we'd have to take out $465,769 of costs. That's roughly 4.23% of that deficit reduction. Same thing, public safety, infrastructure, health and human services, culture, schools would be 6.2 million. Again, a caveat here is that shared cost number is probably, it's purely math, but it's not accurate because again, we have debt, we have retirement, we have fixed costs in that number. So it's highly unlikely that we'd be able to drop $1.3 million out of the shared costs without a significant reduction to something like health insurance. So that's kind of where we are on the baseline of what we're working with.
And I think, well, sorry.
I mean, so I'm looking, all right, I get it. General government, public safety, infrastructure, everything you just applied a standard reduction.
Based on the size of that.
Based on the size of that budget for me, instead of just saying a 10% reduction across the board, 15% reduction across the board, it's like, okay, how else can we think about this? Well, this is, if you're gonna do it equitably, and again, that's up in the air if that's equitable or not, but here's a mathematical formula that can say, okay, here's what you should take out of each one of these buckets. If it was that easy, it'd be great. It's clearly not that easy.
Right.
What I'm going to go to next is, what would that look like operational if we just said we're not using a single dollar to offset the budget, and it is. So I'm going to show you a couple of items, and it'll look a little shocking, so I don't want to scare anyone, but this is how things would look if we actually had $0 offsetting the budget.
Before you get started, I know this is just planning early, and people don't want to get too locked into it. but can we have hard copies?
Sure.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
As long as nobody says, hey, 4 months, you
Yeah,
said this.
well, that's why I preference it, that I know.
These are just pro rata projections, and the 4%
It's
increases,
hard to
that's,
see in the screen and follow in a quick presentation.
that's true. We'll make sure we get you hard copies. Now, that 10% that Jeffrey, as I said, this is prorated. The dollar amount that you'd be losing on the general government budget would be about a 10% across the board cut. Again, it would fibrillate according to different ways, but what would that look like? We'd be looking at service cuts that nobody in the community would ever accept and that we would never do. But if you actually said we needed to take a 10% across the board reduction, we'd likely lose our school resource officers. We would not respond to any quality of life complaints in building or health. We would be reducing public safety, which is absurd. That cannot happen given where we are, but that's where our cost centers are. So as I said, these aren't things we're doing or proposing to do, but if we took that large of a cut, this is what you'd be looking at. Some items are relatively simple. No weekend hours at the library. The rec and the senior center only open 3 days a week, maybe 4 days a week. We wouldn't be able to do leaf pickup. We wouldn't be able to do the dump. We'd be losing cops and firefighters. We can't lose a single firefighter. We're going to talk about how we actually need more staffing in that area. But we present this as objectively to show if it was, let's not use $1 to offset the budget, this is where we would be. This is unacceptable and this can't happen. It's not a realistic scenario. And this is sort of that, we always talk about, well, can we plan and can we see what the worst case scenario is? Well, this is the worst case scenario. And in some ways, this is the best case scenario because this would just achieve that number. What if we lose another $1 million or $2 million? So I don't want to scare anyone into thinking these things are happening, but a budget without any reserves offsetting it is not something that's feasible for this community at this time or in the near future.
How'd you come up with these reductions?
This is roughly looking at what that 10% across the board is.
I
So
know, but
you pull a department in, how do you cut 10%?
talk to the department heads.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So you didn't say the SRO, the chief did?
correct. It's just, it would be part
Or
of a
in
10%
consultation.
reduction. Where are we cutting? How do we maintain our core services? When you begin reducing a budget by that significant amount, what you start doing is reducing everything that is, call it on the side, and I don't consider these things on the side. You take the dump at the DPW. We have a core minimum service level we have to provide. That costs us money in overtime, not providing it. Can't do it. Same thing with leaf pickup. We have a provision in the DPW contract that we can't reduce staff because we are allowed to contract out a lot of things. But that being aside, that's a service where if we don't have the same bodies, we just can't provide that service anymore. So you start reducing all of these services to focus on the core services. At the end of the day, the DPW just needs to plow the roads and make sure the water and sewer works. Maintenance goes out the window. Public safety, it is the minimum staffing that you would have to be able to respond. That's not the community we're used to. That's not a community anyone would want to live in. But this is what, if you had to get 10%, most of our operating budgets are in salaries. They're the people. I once had a city councilor I worked for that said, there's the people and there's the pencils they push, but our budget is mostly the people and there's very few pencils in there.
So I,
Thank you, sure. Yeah, I think this is good not good,
Correct.
good to see.
But if you would be able to quantify some of those things with some, for a future slide.
Sure.
Like what, only running out one ambulance, how much does that?
Devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to do it, but.
And there's a challenge with something like that, right? First of all, we would never do that. It doesn't matter how bad a financial situation we're in, we're never going to do that. But if you told me we had to reduce that department by 10%, well, I guess that's what we would do. We'd lose revenue on that as well.
Yeah.
Some of these, as I said, they're not necessarily a dollar savings, but it's we will no longer have the staff to perform those functions. But again, this is a worst case scenario. Nobody's proposing this. Nobody's projecting this. My phone's going to start buzzing in a few minutes with people saying, "Oh my God, I think you're doing this." We're not. But just to frame the discussion of where we're going, not offsetting the budget and is just not feasible. And at the end of the day, this is a 10% across the board reduction. So when we talk about, oh, by the way, your taxes wouldn't go down, incidentally. They'd still go up at the same pace that they're going up.
And why the 10%? Who chose that?
That's roughly, if we had to close that deficit, that's roughly what it would mean.
Yeah.
That $11 million, roughly 10% across the board. It would fibrillate, we would shift it between different departments, and again, we can't cut the pension fund 10%. We can't cut health insurance 10%. So that means that you're probably, instead of seeing an average of 5 or 6%, you're probably going to see 12% in some departments. But you have some departments that are less than $1 million in their operating costs, so cutting 12% there versus 12% at the police department, which again, we're not doing, but for a framework.
Just assuming a 2.5% levy increase?
This is with that 2.5% levy increase,
Okay.
yeah. This is no reserves to balance the budget. And remember, reserves to balance the budget It's not a great financial practice, but it is taxpayer money. So for us to say we've taken money from the taxpayers, but we're not going to use it to provide them services, we don't want to put ourselves into a worse financial position, but that is what we're here to do, is provide services.
Yeah, thank you. This is the worst case scenario.
Correct.
That you described. As we go forward here, if we start talking about impact of services, I think one thing that was going to come to mind as well is, take for example the slide about the Winter Street facility leaf pickup. You can do those things, but in addition to a service impact, that's going to have repercussions in our trash budget too. Whereas
Absolutely.
those things that we now service the community to decrease the amount of tonnage are now going to end up in tonnage for trash, which will theoretically increase our costs in that bucket. So
Perfect. Another example, we reduce street sweeping. Some people think it's aesthetic, it keeps storm drains clean. How do we do it when we have less people and less equipment? So again, I present it as that's the worst case scenario, but that's not something that's reasonably on the table, and we should all know that. Leading into FY27, knowing this and what are some of the things that we're doing, first of all, we will be reducing some staff on the general government side. At this point, just through retirements and reallocations. I know the general government budget will be coming forward with at least 2 positions eliminated. Again, due to some retirements and moving folks around, there might be another 2. So we technically won't be level services next year. I don't think there'll be impact to the public, assuming we offset the budget. But we've already identified 2 positions, possibly more, that we will not even have in the budget next year. Fee increases. We periodically are staging our fee increases. We think it's time to look at some fees that we haven't looked at in a while and look aggressively even at some of the ones that we have looked at in a while. Particularly liquor fees for the board. We're going to have that on your next agenda. We raised them right before COVID. Then COVID hit and we actually cut them in half for a couple of years to make up for it, and then we haven't changed them since. But we know inflation's hitting everyone. We have pushed some of these cans down the road as far as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that this is going to somehow solve our $11 million budget deficit. Correct. It hits everyone, but we're going to certainly liquor fees, and following that, we're going to be looking at cemetery again, permitting costs where we can, ambulance fees, we're already on the high side. DPW has some connection fees. Again, some of these are not large revenue generators, but at the point of we are squeezed, we need to make sure we're recovering costs where we can.
Mr. Manager, just on that second bullet on fee increases, I know that these are under the control of General Government Board of Selectmen. We may want to, maybe you've already thought about this too, that we probably should request a fee increase or fee reviews at other entities, such as the Airport Commission, which we don't control the fees there, but it may be an opportunity for them to also look at what their fee structures will be.
Absolutely. Similar to us, the Airport Commission, the land use boards, which are 2 of the 3 are allowed to set their own fees, have generally been increasing their fees. But as part of an overall budget, it's time that we realize that these need to go up. We try to delay the impact of inflation as long as possible, but it's time we make
That's
some.
part of our financial policies that we will update them.
Correct. And we've sort of been moving all along that. It's time we look at it and say, we try to keep a minimal, but at this point, anything you don't raise in the fee, you're just paying out of your property taxes. Now, public safety staffing is something we have to talk about. We will be finalizing our report in the next few weeks. I know it's taken a lot longer than it should have. We had a vendor that was not able to deliver, so we had to get rid of the vendor, bring in somebody with a little bit more direct experience. We have to address public safety staffing. I don't know how we do that when we're deficit spending. If we're going to add 8 to 10 positions, we'd have to look at something like that coming through an override, separate from the general override. We'll talk about that in a minute. A public safety override wouldn't be too expensive, not too expensive, given everything else. It certainly is a cost. But that's realistically probably the only way we can make sure we address the staffing needs that we have. As the board knows, and the study's going to confirm my own analysis and what I'm sure is the chief's analysis and the department's analysis, our call volume is through the roof, and we're traveling a lot further. Even if the hospital came back tomorrow, our call volume is just, we were looking at numbers the other day, it's unprecedented. And that's not just a Norwood thing, that's everyone. So we have to address that in a way where we're not deficit spending to get there, because then what happens if we're making reductions in the following year? It just doesn't make sense. Other than we are going into 27 with some budget rejections. A couple of other items that are always important to note: health insurance volatility. As a member of the GIC, we've done better than some of our colleagues with health insurance, but it's still something that's very difficult to control. The costs overall are going up. We're hoping this year we can offer a buyout option finally that might help get our claims down. Unfortunately, our claims experience does exceed what we and employees contribute to the GIC, so we're not exactly the best customer of the GIC, thanks to the rest of the state and municipalities for really offsetting our costs. but we have to try to look at that. We're looking at some other ways to get creative on reducing those costs. You know, trash, we have a set contract, but the fuel prices fluctuate with the contract. Collection volumes change as well. We can only make so much of a production, so much of a projection. It may seem like, well, gee, we pay per ton. Does it really matter? Well, all of a sudden, to Mr. Donnelly's point, if the next 15 people that move into Norwood start throwing more in their trash than they did before, that does add up over time. Improper recycling costs us money. The board has heard this plenty of times, but that is a volatile service cost that we have that we can't necessarily control. This will dovetail into our discussions about going forward with projections, and just more of a reminder that we don't actually get state aid until January. We always want to sort of start early, and the message always looks worse the earliest. I don't think this is going to get much rosier, but we won't have our main numbers for a couple more months. And local receipts have been positive, but local receipts are not a significant driver of the revenue picture. We do see some good numbers there, but they're not. They're also a little bit volatile on things like motor vehicle excise tax, which can easily swing 10% in a given year. If you've ever bought a car, which most of you have, that first year that excise tax payment is a killer. A couple years later, it's significantly lower. Well, that's lower revenue to the town, which is why that revenue source tends to fluctuate quite a bit more. So we are doing some early work on the budget to try to get it out earlier. Budget balancing will likely meet for their first meeting in October, but key revenue and expense numbers really aren't available till January. So I know there's this desire to, well, is budget balancing going to meet and make some decisions? We don't have any key numbers until after December. Doesn't mean that budget work isn't ongoing. The superintendent's working on getting his budget done earlier. We're doing the same thing on the town side. We will have level service budgets ready ahead of the normal time. Again, the town budget will be a slightly less level service because our headcount will be down, but the public shouldn't see an impact based on that. But the decisions on those budgets are still going to follow likely the traditional timelines. We just might have some data a little bit earlier. So let's talk about the one thing that nobody ever likes to talk about is, do we need an override and when? The answer is yes, likely in 2 years. This is from my budget message in 23. We've been fortunate with many years of relatively low inflation. However, we're paying for that now. That was 3 budget cycles ago. 24, in terms of looking down the road over the next few years, it's been increasingly clear that an override will be necessary in a few years, or we may face significant service reductions. This past April, facing the likelihood of a general override in 27 or possibly 28, the longer we can delay a tax increase without compromising our long-term financial health, the better. So we have been talking about this. We're getting closer to that point. I think absent public safety, which might need to get addressed next year, it looks like FY28 is going to be the year. We can balance in 27 with reserves. Now that's based on a reasonable projection of what we think we will have and what we think our costs are going to come at. Jeff has submitted free cash to the state. Our total free cash number, the state decides it every year, so we don't know what it is. We think we will have reserves roughly to balance the budget. I say that with the caveat, I don't know where health insurance is coming in. I don't know where the pension is coming in. We don't know what we're going to see for state aid, so there's a lot of ifs there, but we can get pretty close if we need to with reserves. Delaying an override till FY28, when we have the reserves, we should always use the reserves and delay any potential tax increase should the public want to go that road. The longer you can delay it, the better. For fiscal 28, so this is 2 years out, we will have the fully burdened new growth from the FM project. We're anticipating that bringing in at least probably $2 million with new revenue. It could be more. So if today you said if we needed to have a vote today on an override amount, I would say it's between $10 and $14 million based on where we are, and I don't have a lot of the numbers yet. If we wait till FY28, normally that number goes up. However, we're going to get a significant new growth bump for that budget cycle from FM, meaning that worst case scenario, we'd still be in that $10 to $14 million range. So the longer we can delay that same increase or have the same increase a year later is better. Now, if those numbers come in really, really good, maybe we're looking at a number under $10 million. I don't want to guarantee that. There's a lot of ifs there, but we can delay it, and we want to make sure we get all of that new growth because that's going to be a significant bump for the town. Not enough to close a deficit, unfortunately, but that lets us kick it off without having the amount fundamentally increase. Again, absent all the things that we can't control.
That's if we follow your philosophy.
Correct. That's an unrelated item, so. And with that cheery news, it's not all bad, I will pause, and Mr. O'Neill and I are happy to answer any questions the board may have.
So if we start talking overrides, seems to me we might want to consider some strategic way of doing that. Like you mentioned, public safety separate. Instead of one lump sum for the town needs this much, see what the public has an appetite to support instead of a up or down.
Sure.
So, you know, if they want to support schools but not general government, they get a chance to do that without the whole thing going down, or vice versa, whatever the case may be, or they want to support the public safety. I think we may be getting into a different area than we've been in the past, and we might want to, I don't know that that's the answer, but I think we need to have those discussions of what's the best strategies to put forward and the best options to give the public.
I agree, and you have to be strategic, and it's tough. I know some towns would try to sort of have one override, and they would have 5 different options, and it would just confuse the heck out of people. But we have to talk about how we're layering it, how we reduce the cost as much as possible. If we do something small, where do we go from there? And what's that control measure? If we're going to go to the public, we did an override in 2019, 2018, and we said we'll last 5 years. It looks like that'll have gotten us, call it 7, 8, 9 years, so we're doing well with that. How do we control that going forward? We really do have to limit headcount growth in the town and the schools. And I know that sounds odd when I'm saying we need more firefighters and maybe an additional police officer, but we got to limit headcount growth. But we have to. We have to do that. If there's another override, it has to come with stricter provisions about limiting headcount growth. Our costs are in our people, and our costs go up when we add bodies. We have to stop the headcount growth. If we are adding fire staff, because I know that there's a little bit of a, you're saying two things, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. We've approved a study. I can tell you what I think the study is going to say because this is the industry that I work in. Our call volume, so the metric by which we judge the work of that department, has increased significantly. So we are adding headcount only after saying there's been years, we're waiting, we're doing it late, we're running our people into the ground. We've done a study, we've looked at it, we know it, the chief knows it, the manager knows it, the staff know it. So that's a planned program. We've been very thoughtful about it. And then we're not going to do that for a while. It's, you know, we're not coming back. This board knows there have been very few staff additions in the budget in the last few years, and there's been some reductions, including going into next year with reductions. And where we've added, it's some of our back-end services, a little bit in HR and IT, which are risk management functions really, and then health and public safety. And the public safety is really the deputy chief and the fire inspector. Quality of life issues that we're trying to address to maintain the level of service and the level of cleanliness and well-being that we have in the community. I would love a communications director, an emergency management director, more staff. Those are all good things, and a lot of peer communities do those things. We are saying no to them, and we've continued to say no to them. We truly believe in the nothing more, nothing less philosophy. I think that was Bob Thornton's line years ago, that we're always going to do what we need for our community, but you know what? Sometimes it means we're not going to have all the nice things in the world. Nothing less than what we need to provide this community with a safe and good place to live, and nothing more than that.
Yes, Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to that point, Mr. Mizuko, I think, you know, we're talking about increased calls would necessitate, you know, taking a look at staffing and public safety. I think the schools are going to probably say the same thing with headcount increase or kids that have significant needs, and so it's going to, you know, and I'm not saying anything that you don't know, but you know, if you're talking about sort of presenting up
national models,
right. So I mean, we just have to be prepared for that as well.
Sure. I mean, the school department's added 60 positions in 5 or 6 years, so it might just need to be that we need to manage that a little bit better. We know that needs are changing, but candidly, over the last 5 years, we have spent heavily to address those needs while we've kept public safety on a leash.
Oh yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, you know, we should expect that argument.
Absolutely. Mr. Sad.
I know my eyes are getting bad, Jeff, but can we get copies of this at some point? And then we can just look at different ideas, because the next year is gonna come around the corner real fast. And we're gonna
Yes.
have a double dip on that.
I also, if I could, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, so I think that's a good suggestion. So you've outlined a few of the worst-case scenarios in terms of the services that are impacted here, and that we're primarily looking at FY '28 being the drop-dead year, if you would. But that is a fiscal year or two away. I think what you've charted out here gives us an opportunity, at least, to, you know, we should take a hard look at some of the reductions you've looked in there, in anticipation that anything that we can do now to pare down that deficit, even if we're awaiting another, an override in FY '28, I think it's prudent for us to take a look at what we have on the table now, that we can prioritize service-wise and make alterations as needed. We have, for example, we talked about the capital plan earlier. The capital plan does outline a series of projects over the next 5 years, and this may provide us an opportunity to take a look at some of those projects and make a determination as, given our fiscal situation, is that project, which is affecting that service, really something that we really want to spend that money towards, given our situation. So it's a little soul searching that's, I think, available to us. So while we have some time to work towards what we do in FY '28.
I would agree. I know Mr. Plasko and I were having a conversation earlier today that I think probably in the November timeline, after capital outlay is gone to town meeting, maybe it's December, we would take a look at the larger projects in the out few years and just start to have a conversation about, okay, we know we're approaching them, but is this something that reasonably needs to be on here or can be on there?
Right, and some of those projects may be relevant to a particular service that we wanted to improve through a capital project, that maybe we need to revisit that service.
Correct.
Or that activity. Anyways, that's all my input I have.
All right, I think there's more follow-up discussion, but not necessary for this evening.
I would agree.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Jeff. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Let's come back every 2 weeks.
See you right over here.
Right here. You can have it. I'm glad I have somebody else that can run numbers.
Take care.
All right, budget's done. General manager goals and objectives update. I think I'm going to pass that to Mr. Donnelly.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are talking about, well, I'd like to have a discussion on two fronts, really. Closing out FY '25 general manager's goals and objectives. So what you have in your package is Mr. Manager's input regarding the several goals that were established for FY '25. He's provided us with the update on each of those. And with this information per our process, I will now work with HR, because we are administratively transferring the responsibility for the data collection from the board to HR. Have them put this information in the proper format that we have for a form for review, and then distribute it to each of the 5 members. And following our process that we adopted last year, HR will then present the information back to us in consensus form. So that, I hope I can meet with Lisa this week and get that going with the goal of getting Mr. Manager sort of the general feedback on goals and objectives in a relatively quick turnaround, which is a vague term, but we will work with it. I did also want to mention that, so that process is going. With that process ongoing, and we're going to be closing it out soon, it's a good time, I think, for the board to also work with the manager on FY '26 goals and objectives. And to that end, I wanted to suggest that perhaps even absent the conclusion of the FY '25 process, that maybe we want to dedicate a meeting in October to a discussion with the manager on what could be the priority goals and objectives for FY '26. And I think he's provided us some information on this summary for FY '25, namely, and I'll just pick on one here. We have an objective that the manager provide us some input regarding options for explore affordable housing options, and I know that he's come forward with some information for our consideration. And I think it's timely for us, perhaps in October, to take a look at all the goals and objectives, and particularly build off what he's already presented to us for '25 on several of those goals, including the one on affordable housing options.
Okay, any questions, comments? Yes.
Just one, I wonder if in terms of setting the goals, because we have some things that we queued up last year for this year, we could put them on a list. We tried once before to sort of do some prioritization. I think the mistake that we made, and Mr. Plasko's on the board, is I had a whole lot of goals and asked everyone to rank all of them, and everything came in at between like 2.8 and 3.2. If we got some goals that I would have, goals that the board would want, and then maybe we ask to rank just the top 3 or 5. That way, it might be that, you know, Mr. Plasko may want a dog park, and he says one of the goals is a dog park this year, and if nobody else even remotely ranks it, it just doesn't appear. It might help us get to a consensus on a couple of achievable goals for the year, but gives everyone a chance to put different things forward and see what works.
I don't care about a dog park. Emmett doesn't, he doesn't have a vote.
I like the approach. I think that you use the word consensus, and I think it's beneficial for the board and for you to just understand that we all individually, we may have maybe not a dog park, but a goal or objective or something to look at, and we can advocate for that. But I think as a group, what we should really define for your top 3 to 5 goals are the ones that you have a consensus that those are the ones. I think that's a really good suggestion.
And that helps me to drive some administrative resources towards those goals. It doesn't mean that and I'm picking on a dog park and Mr. Plasko, but somebody wants that. It doesn't mean it may not happen, but we're not going to be putting a lot of the administrative time behind it. A board member can take it and run with it, but it just lets us know, okay, we got to get this done in the course of the year, so let me put teams in place to get these things done.
Okay, so you just take this as an update. Mr. Donnelly will continue to work with HR, and then we'll plan on tackling the 26 goals in the near future. Okay, so we'll just take that as information discussion. Go on to 4.6, renaming of the Willett Field to honor John Whitey Lighthizer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board knows, you have, this was brought up a while ago. It was requested to be added to the agenda. We have completed all of the necessary research and find no reason that the board would not be able to name that field as you so desire.
Okay, this was on our last agenda, and we held it for the 2 weeks just to give time to really let it sink in, and if there was anyone in the public that heard we were thinking about this and had an opinion, we could hear from them. I know I personally have heard from no one, and there's nothing on the record. Is the board having received anything officially? So comments or action by the board? Mr. Saad,
I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
and seconded by Mr. Lang. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a, Representative Rogers was able to get an earmark in the bill for some work on that field. The governor's holding earmarks, I believe, until October, but if we do get positive word on that earmark, Sam White will be before the board with an idea of what to do to affect the name change and what that money could be used for
Yeah,
at the
we
field.
appreciate seeing what's thought to be done.
Yeah, we will bring that to the board before we do anything, assuming that we can go forward with that earmark.
All right, one-day liquor permit for Hometown Arcade. Motion to approve
So
tonight,
moved.
made by Mr. Lang, seconded by Mr. Donnelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Use for the town common. We have one that's been withdrawn by Progress Norwood for the No Kings rally. So I guess we don't have to take any action on that. They've withdrawn it. And the Norwood Circle Hope Foundation. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Sad. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Any questions or comments on any of the memoranda? Otherwise, I'll accept the motion to file.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Managers update?
I don't think I have anything other than the many things I covered already this evening,
Okay.
Mr. Plasko. Maybe we gotta start moving my items back under the manager's agenda like we used to do, so it seems like I have more going on.
All right, I guess we rush right into the selectmen's agendas if we have any. Mr. Sad?
Just a couple, Mr. Manager, the lights under the bridges, if we could look into that again,
We don't own the bridges,
but can't we string lights underneath them just to give it light?
we don't own them, but we'll continue to look into it and see what we can do.
Perfect. And then the big Y, we're looking into that about the 10,000 we had allocated to go, good. That's it, Mr. Manager.
Thank you.
Manager and Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Donnelly?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple of items I just wanted to follow up and brief the board on. So our compost pilot, which we approved in '23, is ending September 30th of this year. And we're working with Black Earth to move our current participants in that program to a private pay basis. taking advantage of the volume rates that's offered by the composting company. Right now, they report that 238 of the 700-plus households that were participating in the pilot have signed up and are taking advantage of the volume rates. If we're successful in getting another couple, 150 or so people, we hit 400 households, the vendor will reduce the rates another 20%. So that's coming along well. And if you have curiosity about how to sign up for composting, whether you're a member of the pilot now or interested in going forward, blackearthcompost.com has all the information regarding the Norwood plans. I have received some feedback from folks as to why the town isn't continuing the service on the town budget as we did during the pilot, and I just wanted to offer some data points regarding that particular item. So reported back in August, we've achieved 700 households participating in the pilot, and we estimate that about at the end of the pilot we will have composted about 170 tons of food waste, and that will have been diverted from our trash removal and into compost. While the program is very beneficial ecologically and environmentally, food composting does have a cost. And my back of the envelope analysis shows that from a financial standpoint, would likely need a far greater participant base than 700 people in order to have a significant dent in our trash cost. And one of the interesting things about the variation in the programs is that in trash, we pay by the ton. The more tons, you get paid per, $300 plus to remove it per ton. As more tonnage goes to waste management, the more you pay. Our compost program is a per participant rate. So the more people that participate, the rate comes down. Very hard to make an apples to apple comparison. But I did the best in terms of just trying to provide an analysis that would tell us, well, how many households would we really need in a compost program that would really put a dent into our trash removal. And my estimate is that probably we'd need about 4,000 households. And just for comparison, Lexington, the town of Lexington, has a compost pilot that they have authorized to fund as many as 4,000 households at a cost of about $400,000 a year. So our fiscal situation, as we just discussed a moment ago, is such that it's not a good time for us to be talking about an additional service when we are operating with a budget deficit. And along with that, we just wanted to make sure that we're prioritizing the use of free cash for capital projects and reserves. So it remains a successful project with trash hauling costs still accelerating. They're up about 28% over the last 4 years. It is something that down the line we might be able to revisit. Maybe there's a data point that tells us that, hey, we would benefit from having wide-scale food composting on the town's dime, but that we're not at that point right now. And if there are some changes in regulatory from the Commonwealth, and I say that because I know there are some states that have banned food waste from trash, and that's given many states and municipalities the incentive to develop food composting projects. But the state of Massachusetts is not at that point. Could be in the future. And if that were to be an action that the state would take, I think the good news for us is that we have experience with composting. We have a vendor that we partner with that we've had some success with. But that's hopefully the explanation I think some people wanted in terms of why the town shouldn't be providing the service going forward. So I still encourage people, who are in the pilot now. You can still go to Black Earth, your Black Earth account, and read the details about costs for maintaining the program on a private paid basis at the reduced volume rates. And that is open to not just people who are in the pilot, but anybody who now has an interest going forward, can sign up for it as well. In fact, I think Mr. Ryan and I will have some conversations going forward in terms of how we can continue to promote composting, both the drop-off program that he has, as well as the composting program through Black Earth, that we remain an option for town residents to look into and take advantage of. So my apologies for the very long explanation, but I think it's important that we get that out there.
You were gone for a while.
Yeah, I know.
I bet.
You guys miss me with my long addendas, I know. Finally, just a note, comprehensive plan committee is conducting another outreach opportunity for residents. There is a plan survey that you can find on the website, as well as the comprehensive plans website, tinyurl.com/NorwoodCP. So this particular survey is looking for resident input into a series of potential goals and objectives associated with the plan that the committee has drafted. It's an opportunity for people to go to that website. You will see the goals and objectives. You would be asked to review them and to provide input on those that you are particularly most interested in. And this survey, as well as the input we've received from citizens all along the way, would be an important step in helping the plan, the shape the 10-year vision for Norwood's comprehensive plan. So tinyurl.com/NorwoodCP. Go there, and you'll see the draft goals, and you have an opportunity to weigh in on those for each of the elements of the comprehensive plan. And with that, I now will hand it off to
Mr. Lane.
Thanks for chairing tonight. It's good to have you back chairing.
Thank you, sir.
Just one quickly, we had talked a little bit about this previously, and I think we brought it up about a year ago, but I think the timing is good. Talking about the financial management policy for capital outlay. I know that the Finance Committee and the School Committee have both voted on it, and we had some changes. Various members have been gone, you were gone, and Amanda's gone, so maybe next month it'd be one of our meetings, bring it back up.
That was headed up by Mr. Donnelly.
Right, waiting for.
And I offered some rather major, I guess we'll say, or several suggested changes in it.
Yep.
That kind of led to some of the delay. And Mr. Donnelly has already been in touch with me, and we're getting together hopefully Thursday or Friday, not ought to get to another week, so we can get that
Perfect.
back on track.
Yeah, I think the timing is good, so.
yes, and we're going to take the opportunity. I've taken Mr. Plasko's input and side by side with the draft policy that was presented, and we'll have a good conversation. And I think next month is a good opportunity for us to come back and have a further discussion about the policy and what this board prefers, to do when it comes to our actions related to financial policies, which we are one of the three boards that is required to vote on them.
Right.
So,
Do any changes in the existing one?
what's that?
To make any changes in the
Yes.
existing? Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
right,
Okay.
right.
So we're working on that, hopefully sooner than later.
It's good timing. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for bringing that, Mr. Lane.
Thank you. On behalf of the entire board, I'd like to wish Chairman Amanda Grow and her husband a very happy anniversary. That's the reason she's not joining us this evening, taking a little celebration, so congratulations. Also want to recognize that today starts Happy Rosh Hashanah. For those who don't know, it's a 2-day celebration, Jewish community, marking the beginning of the holy days, and it emphasizes repetitive prayer and reflection on the past year while looking towards the sweet new year. In these troubled times, perhaps it's wise for all of us to take a little time to do some reflection on our own of how best we have acted in the past or how we can do better in the future. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plasko.